Hi, and welcome to the first episode of the Press Coverage Podcast. Just three guys talking about some football, what's going on in the football world. My name's Peter Andolino. I'm a Dolphins fan, and these are my co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Matt West. I'm a Jets fan.
Yeah, and I'm Mike Labette, and I'm also a Jets fan.
All right,
Kinda
so let's
weak.
get right into it. So our first topic of conversation today is Christian McCaffrey recently signed a 4-year, $64 million deal. What do you guys have to say about that?
He's officially the highest paid running back now in the NFL on a year-to-year basis. He just passed Zeke with $1 million, and I think it's totally deserved.
Yeah.
I mean, him and Zeke are miles ahead of everyone. Like, the fact that Melvin Gordon was, holding out for a contract and he got, half of what McCaffrey just got is kind of insane. But, he kind of spoke for himself last year. He went off.
Yeah, I'm sure Saquon's going to get similar money when his time.
He will for sure.
So I don't think it's it's just that it came now. It's not that it wasn't expected, but it's not like he was due for a new contract.
Yeah, it's definitely early. I'm assuming they're trying to front load the money since they're not really paying too many people right now. So I'm assuming that's why they did it now rather than waiting.
Besides Teddy,
Not much of anyone.
DJ,
Unbelievable that a white running back is the highest paid running back in the NFL.
DJ Moore's still not paid yet, right? He's on his rookie contract.
No, he's only I think he's only been playing for 2 years.
He was drafted 2 years ago.
Yeah. So he's got time for sure.
Yeah.
The Panthers are an anomaly.
Yeah, his receiving yards is highest of all time already in his first 3 seasons or something like that.
That makes sense, dude. It's watching him play, it makes no sense that he's as good as he is.
No,
but he just can't be stopped.
He's a beast. I'm sure he'll be good for fantasy too this year.
Of course.
Yeah, he's the consensus number 1 overall pick. I think it's not even close in fantasy rankings coming up now.
Yeah, I mean, with Michael Thomas, he puts up almost close to the amount of yards that he puts up.
But if you actually look at the stats, Christian McCaffrey had 450 or something crazy in PPR, and Mike Thomas only had 375.
Yeah,
so
I don't think you could
McCaffrey,
argue to take
blew him
any
out of the
receiver
water
over him.
It's just the position difference.
Yeah, exactly. Even Mike Thomas repeats his year, you can't really argue it, which that's even very unlikely because he had a crazy year.
Yeah, he broke Marvin Harrison's reception record.
All right.
All right, should we move into the free agency?
Yep. So now we're going to be talking about some of the key free agents and their contract details. First up, we're going to be talking about Tom Brady.
Tom Brady was a bum in New England, and now he has a chance to revive his career at 43.
How are you going to call him a bum, dude? What?
He,
6 Super Bowl rings?
6 times
I
Super
get
Bowl
that.
champion.
I get that we're all AFC East fans, but you can't call him a bum.
He washed up finally on a team that may be able to suit his strengths. Good wide receivers.
Tom just signed a 2-year, $50 million deal with up to $5 million in incentives per year, so he could get up.
And the $50 million is fully guaranteed too,
Yeah.
so it's definitely a good contract for him.
Just unheard
But the Bucks is what's crazy to me. No one saw that coming until a day before. It was Chargers, Raiders, maybe Colts or Titans. Those were the teams in the mix. No one even.
Did anyone really think the Raiders were a realistic suitor though?
No, but there kept being reports saying the Raiders were interested. But the Bucks, it was radio silent.
That's true. They wanted to keep it under wraps.
That interested. They knew they wanted to go with Phillip Rivers.
I saw a video that basically said that they called Brady just to see, to gauge his interest, and Brady basically told him right then that he wanted to be a Buck, and then they're like, "Oh shit, okay, let's make it happen."
The report said that he's the one who wanted to go to the Bucks. The Bucks didn't pursue him; he pursued them.
Yeah,
which isn't normal.
That's so interesting. Out of every team he could have pursued, you'd think maybe the Titans.
Well, maybe the Titans made it clear that they were going for Tannehill, because I'm assuming he would have wanted to land with the Titans with the way their roster is built.
Yeah, or the Chargers, you'd think, because they just did a bunch of stuff in place to potentially bring in a quarterback like Brady with the lineman switch. They traded for Okung.
Well, I think the Chargers definitely wanted to go younger after letting Phil go.
Yeah, probably the right move.
Definitely looking.
They should have brought in Jameis, but whatever, it's fine.
They might sign Jameis.
They still could.
They still could. Justin Herbert's looking like the most likely option for that, I think.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert. When we talk about drafting, I think we'll get into that. But I don't know. At 6 is too early.
I think he's a talented player. All right. Next up on our list, we got Ryan Tannehill. Recently signed 4 years, 118 mil with 62 guaranteed.
Imagine hearing that a year ago, like that contract for Tannehill. Like he got
No
traded to be
offense
Marcus
to-
Mariota's backup.
Coming off of 2 torn ACLs.
Yeah, like good for him though.
Honestly.
I mean, looking back now, seeing how he played last year, like he was always pretty good. Like even with the Dolphins, like he winning seasons twice, other than when he got injured.
Realistically,
Like when he's healthy, he's pretty good.
yeah, he was like probably the 4th best like Dolphin quarterback ever, and that, I don't know. I mean, it's a good franchise.
He has a lot of longevity, especially with all the injuries he's had, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
But I don't know if he's worth that sort of contract for 4 years when they wouldn't even give Derrick Henry a long-term deal.
I mean, he's a running back. It's 2 different positions.
Yeah, but clearly, like their playoff run was on the shoulders of Derrick Henry. Even though Tannehill did well in his role,
They wouldn't have made it there with Mariota.
So I
Yeah,
would say
I agree.
Henry and Tannehill's success was mostly based on the offensive line success, though.
Yeah, with Jack.
So you have to decide which one you'd rather keep long term.
I don't think that they wanted to move on from Tannehill. They started the year 2-4, and then Tannehill came in and brought them to the playoffs.
That's true. But the Titans just have a prophecy that they always go 9-7. They've done it 4 years straight now.
Yeah, it's true. Mike Vrabel's a great coach, though. I'm sure that they'll be better this year.
Yeah.
I hope for their sake, because I want them to keep him around.
They're a good team. I'm sure that they'll win the NFC South this year with the Texans not doing so great.
They lost
Watch
a
out
lot
for the Colts
on
this year.
defense, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's a possibility. I think they're the favorite right now, though.
Yeah. I think you'd have to say they're the favorite, but you can never rule out the Texans or the Colts now that they have a quarterback. But we'll get into
What
that.
happens in this upcoming draft?
You can never rule out the Texans with Deshaun Watson. He's just too good.
Exactly. Yeah.
100%. He still has some weapons there, too. David Johnson could reemerge. We got Brandon Cooks, deep threat. Will Fuller, deep threat. Kenny Stills, deep threat.
For all the garbage
Got
Bill
speed, that's
O'Brien's
for sure.
put them through as GM, they didn't do that terrible. Their roster isn't that horrible,
No,
but their
But
draft
they're so screwed.
their
for the
draft capital
future.
is really not great,
Yeah.
that
and
roster.
their contracts are bad.
It's like they're building to win now, and then they traded Hopkins. Like the two things together make no sense.
I mean, he hated Hopkins. That's what it comes down to.
It's the only explanation for it.
I mean, he came out and said it. He didn't like his baby mamas coming around. That's what he said. So, if you
He
hate,
should not be a GM, dude.
if
He
you
was
have,
compared to Aaron Hernandez.
he has all that power. He can do whatever he wants with his roster. So, if you don't like a
It's
guy,
true.
even if he's one of the best wide receivers in the game,
Even still, there's no way he couldn't have gotten better value for that trade than a second round pick, basically.
I'm
And
sure.
David
At the
Johnson.
very least,
There's no way he didn't. But
Odell went for a first and a player who was worth a first and also a third.
I think ever since the Laramie Tunsil trade, where the Dolphins were able to fleece them for so many picks, teams know that they don't have to offer fair compensation to Bill O'Brien. So that might be why he couldn't get value for Hopkins.
Chris Greer absolutely fleeced him.
Yeah, it was bad.
2 firsts, a second, and 2 prospects for Kenny Stills and Larry Tunsil. Who would have thought?
Crazy.
All right. On to our next player. We got Byron Jones signing with the Dolphins, a 5-year, $82 million deal with $54.5 guaranteed.
I think it's funny the
Massive
Dolphins are
contract
throwing
for him.
money at a corner who regressed from last year
He's not.
in efforts to fix their secondary in 1 year.
How did he regress?
He didn't have the season he had the year before,
He was
at the
probably
very least.
the second best corner in the league last year.
Yeah, and he wasn't the second best corner in the league this year.
No, this past year.
I don't know about that one, Pete.
No, he was 2 years ago. In the 2018-2019 season, he was really good, and then this year he was.
Stephon Gilmore.
Tre'Davious White was definitely better than him last year.
All right, that's fair. I mean, it's the only thing that hurts him is interceptions.
Is a big part about being a corner. You need to make sure you can do your part.
Does
on
he
defense.
shadow even though?
Yeah, I think he does. He covered.
Well, he probably won't on the Dolphins. Do you think he's better than Xavier Howard? Because I don't.
Xavier Howard's ball. I mean, with those 2 corners, I think that they'll just stay to either side.
Yeah,
Yeah, one will play.
I agree with that.
like what Ramsey and Boye did. They didn't really shadow when they were that.
I agree. You probably have the best cornerback duo in the league, though. I don't know if I would have paid him that contract, but you have money, so it's not that big of a deal.
If you break the contract down, it's a 5-year deal, but the back two with a 5th-year option, so it's a 4-year deal with a 5th-year option basically. So they don't have to pay him like a solid chunk of that money if they don't want to. So the beginning of the contract is like only like a couple million. And then as he goes on, once he gets to his 3rd and 4th year, it like bulks up to like 15 each year, something like that.
I mean, as a Jets fan, I'm just scared if you're paying a corner that much money, he's not an elite corner because of what happened with Tremaine Johnson, where we gave him basically the highest paid corner contract, and he came in and wasn't even an NFL starter caliber player. Like he was a bench player on the Jets.
I mean, I don't think that's going to be the case this year, honestly, but we'll see what happens.
Quarterbacks are just showing that they can regress faster than people think.
Mm-hmm. The Miami defense is making strides, and they have a good new coach that's going to implement something. Like Brian Flores looks pretty promising.
He's a defensive-minded coach, too, so I think that they'll be pretty good this year. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year, just based on – I mean, the division's wide open now, but I think that the Bills and Patriots are still better than both the Dolphins and the Jets. So.
I agree, unfortunately.
Yeah, for now. We'll see. We have to see what Nate Sudfeld does.
Yep.
Or if the Patriots draft a quarterback, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, right now they have Stidham and Hoyer, and apparently Bill Belichick's okay with starting either of them.
You never know if Belichick found a gem with Stidham, too. Like, we'll never really know until we see it. Maybe he thinks he has his guy.
I wouldn't be shocked if he took, like, Jake Fromm in, like, the 2nd or 3rd round. Too.
Yeah, I could see something like that for sure. I could also see Jordan Love in the 1st round, possibly.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Jordan Love, honestly. Just he didn't produce his senior year, and I don't know. He's definitely athletic.
Well, Jordan Love had a major coaching change, and he went from a good coach to a not as good coach, and that's a huge reason as to his stats. Mm-hmm. But he has a good arm. I don't know what his comp would be, but I could see him working out in the NFL. He just has to match with somebody good that'll like give
someone comp him to Mahomes, but I don't know about that. Nah. Mostly athletic wise. So.
Yeah, his accuracy.
But he doesn't have the decision making.
No, he's like, I don't know. He's like 1 or 2 things off from being an NFL quarterback. I think, like a starter. All right, so let's move on here. Let's move on to Dante Fowler. Signed a 3-year deal, which is worth up to $48 million.
Overpaid.
I agree, overpaid. But I'm still pissed as a Jets fan because we've needed an edge rusher for years, and that contract isn't worth it. But for something lower, I would have loved to have Dante Fowler.
I mean, someone like Jadeveon Clowney is still available that we might get into later.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Fowler, I mean, didn't he demand a trade when he was on the Jags?
Yeah, there was a lot of problems with the Jags.
You have to remember that was the time that Calais Campbell and Yannick Ngakoue already on the team.
Yeah.
So there really wasn't space for everyone, and now they have Josh Allen too. Like in the long run, that would have never worked.
I mean, he was an early draft pick though. I think I'd rather get rid of Campbell, which they wanted.
Well, they did. So.
Yeah, but I don't think I would have let Dante Fowler walk for that. Still on a rookie deal. But now, yeah, I could see him being overpaid. He probably comes in as like the 2nd best player on that Falcons defense.
That's kind of.
He also didn't produce all that well on his rookie contract. His best year was with the Rams. You could argue Aaron Donald helped him a lot.
Mm-hmm. Also with Michael Brockers and people like that on the inside.
Yeah, the Rams are about to fall apart now. They just lost like every piece. Their whole contract situation is a mess.
Oh, their contracts are not the best in the world. They have, I mean, who's under contract long term?
Aaron Donald. Todd Gurley was.
Aaron Donald, Jared Goff.
Brandon Cooks they traded though.
Jalen Ramsey, right?
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey.
Did they re-sign him yet?
Yeah, they re-signed him right when they traded for him.
Oh, right. Okay.
They've been doing weird stuff with their corners.
I mean, originally they set themselves up to win that Super Bowl year when they made it to the Super Bowl, which made sense. But now their moves have been questionable since then, trading for Jalen Ramsey for 2 first-round picks. when you're not really.
They
I
traded.
think they still thought they were in a window that they're not in anymore.
They traded Peters away, and he was an instant difference maker for the Ravens. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't really work in their system. Like, he wasn't the same corner that he was.
Yeah, but it seemed like they tried way too hard to fix that hole.
Yeah.
That guy's basically a receiver. All right. So last major free agent we're going to talk about is Jack Conklin moving to the Cleveland Browns on a 3-year, $42 million deal with 30 of that being guaranteed.
I thought I heard immediately there were reports that the Jets were going to get him, and like it was guaranteed that he was going to the Jets. And then I see he signs to the Browns immediately. I was like, oh, okay.
Those reports were like 10 days before free agency, though, so you never really know what's real with that.
Yeah, but we need tackles so bad.
I mean, I
guess the Browns do too.
He was the top offensive lineman out there, and the Browns have the most cap space in the league, so they still do.
Is that true? They have more cap space than the Dolphins?
Yep, slightly more. Dolphins are second.
I know they definitely still have the most now.
No, the Browns are
crazy.
first because the Browns are favorites right now for Unique Ngakoue because they can pay him.
I guess
Browns
either
roster is
going
already
for
pretty
Ngakoue
loaded.
or going for Trent Williams. I wouldn't be shocked if they end up with at least one of them.
Well, if they get Trent Williams, they don't need to draft a tackle. They'll have 2 tackles.
That's true. I don't know. I feel like the Browns are just I don't know. They have so much money. They're trying to beef up their team, got a new head coach in there. So
But this is how they tried to build last year too.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it works out for them. Clearly on paper their roster is pretty good, especially if they add one of those pieces.
Yeah.
But who knows if it's gonna work out in the end.
I mean their offense, you got Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Odell, Landry, Njoku, Hooper now. And now they just got to beef up that O-line, which they're starting to do. So.
And they have the 10th overall pick because they sucked somehow.
Yeah.
With all these like amazing players on their roster, all this cap space, they are loaded to just walk into a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. They could easily pull a 49er and just go right to the Super Bowl next year if they play their cards right.
Yep.
The Niners built so much smarter than them now. They built in the right places on the O-line.
I agree. The Browns are still a dumpster fire, but like they're a dumpster fire that has a lot of ammo that might be able to get to the Super Bowl.
I feel like they're too dysfunctional to make a real run.
Yeah, well,
they have the talent for it, but I don't know.
Kyle Shanahan also took a bunch of like undrafted and like low round guys on offense just because he's that smart of an offensive mind to the Super Bowl.
Well, his running back scheme is insane. Like if he finds a player that fits it, no matter where they're drafted, they just have to have certain skill sets. And then if you have good enough O-line, the running backs are going to put crazy numbers. Like look at Raheem Mostert in the playoffs, 200-yard game.
He's he was a special teams guy his whole career. Now he's breaking out his 5th year.
Yeah, he couldn't make a single roster anywhere. He was on like 7 different teams.
Yeah, and he destroyed his forearm like 2 years ago on Thursday Night Football. Yeah. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up what we're going to talk about for free agency. Now we're going to move into a segment where we talk about what team is going to be better next year and what team is going to be worse. We're going to start off here with Michael Lev. So here we go.
Yeah, okay. The team I picked that would be better than last year, I think it's the Redskins. I think they're a sleeper. Obviously they sucked last year, but they have the 2nd overall pick. They're going to take Chase Young, almost guaranteed, it seems like at this point. And he's going to make an immediate impact. Like as a prospect, he's better than Nick Bosa was last year. That's what a lot of scouts are saying. And if he's going to come into the NFL and be better than Nick Bosa, then he's immediately going to completely renovate this defense. And their defense is already good. They completely bought out like 2 new corners. Their secondary got upgraded with Kendall Fuller and what's his face? What is his name? They got him for the Eagles.
Ronald Darby.
Yeah, Ronald Darby. Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't know why you think he's good though.
Well, he's good enough as a second corner to follow with Kendall Fuller. And they have Landon Collins still his 2nd year with their system. They have Ron Rivera is going to take over as a defensive coach. Their defense is going to go from one of the last in the league to one of the better half at the very least, if not top 10.
I would say Fuller and Darby is a below average cornerback duo for sure. I think you're overrating what they are.
I think so too.
Maybe, but
also,
still.
I mean, their D line is definitely going to be upgraded. Do you really think that it's definite that Chase Young's going number 2? You think they might try to trade back or maybe I don't know, maybe pick Tua. There's been some talk of them doing that. I don't see it happening, but I don't know what you guys think.
I don't see Tua as the guaranteed transformative athlete that Kyler was for them to give up on their first round quarterback like the Cardinals did. So I don't think that's really up for debate. I think they're going to stick with Dwayne Haskins. They're going to try to groom him, or possibly Alex Smith might come back, which is crazy, and he'll definitely have an impact. Like wherever he goes, he seems to win a lot, and he'll win with the Redskins under Ron Rivera.
You think
So I see them having a huge year.
Do you think it's a possibility they trade back from too?
Yeah, but I don't think it's as likely as the Lions trading back from 3. I think Chase Young is too good a prospect for them to move in the draft.
I agree. You have to get a haul to give up on getting a generational talent like Chase Young.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. What team do you think is going to be worse next year?
Well, definitely the Bears. I mean, the Bears, all they did in free agency were make bad signings. They signed Jimmy Graham to a way too expensive contract. It was $16 million over 2 years, with $9 million guaranteed for a tight end who completely underperformed with Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. So that was unbelievable. And they also signed Robert Quinn to a 5-year, $70 million deal with $30 million guaranteed. And he's 29 years old and is not in the prime of his career anymore. And they made a lot of questionable decisions. They traded for Nick Foles thinking he's going to be the savior like Jacksonville did last year, and that didn't work out at all. They're throwing away their cap space that they had none of to begin with. Their offense is atrocious. Their offensive line is getting worse, and they're only getting older. And they were 8-8 last year. They're probably going to be 4-12 this year. I really don't see them doing much of anything going forward.
4-12 is a little low for that defense, but I agree with the principle.
That's true. Maybe a little bit.
I mean, I think if they figure out what they're going to do at quarterback, like within the first 2 or 3 games of the season, then I mean, their offense isn't that bad. They have David Montgomery, a second-year guy, or Tariq Cohen. You never know what he's going to do. Allen Robinson, under the radar, had a fantastic season last year with Mitch Trubisky, who couldn't throw the ball.
Get him a quarterback, and he'll go back to his 2015 form.
Yeah,
he was nasty.
Foles could be that guy. He threw to Alshon, so I think that they're similar players. See what happens.
That's fair.
You just never know what Foles is going to do.
I could see, because Foles is very good when he has a good coach, and that was shown in Philadelphia. So with Matt Nagy, that could potentially be a renaissance for him again. But I really just don't see that happening. I think it's going to be a mess.
Healthy too. I mean, that was his biggest problem in Jacksonville. I mean, he threw a touchdown on his opening drive while he's getting hit, breaking his collarbone. He came back and wasn't the same. They wanted to go with their younger guy, Minshew. I don't blame
and Minshew's a mania. He's going to work out.
I think so.
I'm a huge fan.
Yep. All right. Matt, what are your 2 teams?
I would say a team I think that's going to improve a lot this year is the Broncos. If you look at just young players improving last year, like Courtland Sutton played, if he keeps on his career trajectory, he's going to be a top 10 receiver in this league. Seeing some of the catches he made were amazing. And let's say, I think they're going to draft Henry Ruggs at number 15. So if you add a speed element to that offense as well, along with an ascending Drew Lock, who at the end of last season, the last 4 games or so, he looked like he's going to be their franchise guy.
I believe
now, who knows?
One as a starter this year.
Yeah, he was dominant when he played, and that was with, pretty good weapons still, but you add Melvin Gordon to that backfield. They just signed Graham Glasgow, who was the best interior offensive lineman in free agency. And then you look at their defense, which is probably the real strength of the team. That defensive front with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, and trading for Jarrell Casey for only a 7th-round pick. That front's going to be pretty scary to go up against.
I definitely
That's true. That's a huge acquisition for Jarrell Casey.
The only thing that makes me nervous is their secondary. You got Jeffrey Simmons back there, but really not much else.
Yeah, traded away Chris Harris. Even though he's old, he was a really good piece.
I think that's something they'll address in the draft as well. Maybe not in the first round, but pretty early on.
Yep.
If they can get a difference maker in a corner, that might be the final step they really need to go over the edge.
Some secondary guys who are going to be going later in the draft. I think definitely there's a lot of good guys in the second round. Antoine Winfield, maybe Trevon Diggs. See them later in the draft. And what team you think is going to be worse next year?
So I'm not saying this team's going to be bad, but I think they're going to be worse than they were last year, and that's the Minnesota Vikings. So I think they're basically going to go from a playoff team to a team that doesn't make the playoffs. And that's for a few reasons. On offense specifically, they lost Stephon Diggs. which you might argue it's not that big of a loss because he disappeared in some games last season. But usually the games he wasn't that active in, it's because he was taking a lot of coverage from the defense. I think Thielen's going to have a lot more trouble getting open without Diggs on the other side. And offensive coordinator-wise, they lost Kevin Stefanski, who's now the Cleveland Browns head coach. And his run system really helped Dalvin Cook last year, I think. And I think you're going to see that loss next year. As far as the defense goes, you're losing on the front, you're losing Everson Griffin and Linval Joseph, who have been two keystone players on that defensive line for quite a few years now. And then the secondary, you're losing. I mean, Xavier Rhodes is kind of washed, but you're losing him. And overall, they haven't made too many additions, and they've lost quite a few players.
Yeah, they definitely need to address that defense in the draft. They have 2 first-round picks pretty much back-to-back.
They really have to hit on those picks to be good this year, I think.
100% agree. I mean, it also doesn't help that whole NFC is getting better. I really don't picture 2 teams making it out of the NFC North. So I definitely agree.
I really don't, especially. I think the Bears are a mess. The Vikings are going to take a step back, and I don't think any of us see anything in the Lions.
Matthew Stafford, never know.
I think the Lions are always better than they seem, though.
The Packers were the worst 13-3 team I've seen in a very long time last year. I don't know how they lucked out into such a good record.
And also with the Vikings, they're replacing Stephon Diggs with Tajay Sharp, who isn't a bad player. He's definitely up and coming, but he doesn't have that game-breaking speed that Stephon Diggs has.
He's a borderline starter. He's nothing special.
Everyone can agree Tajay Sharp is not Stephon Diggs,
yeah.
which I'm very excited for the Bills, even though I'm not a huge Bills fan. But Stephon Diggs is going to look great there.
Yeah. All right, now it's my turn. So for my team that I picked that's going to be better this year, I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, just Ben Roethlisberger coming back alone is enough to make me think that they're going to be better than they were last year. Somehow that defense still pulled together a couple of wins, and if they can play to a similar level, I mean, even if they played a little bit worse next year than they did last year, like they would still be a better team than they were because Ben's coming back. You got Deontay Johnson on his second year in the league. I think he's a game breaker. I think he's going to break out this year. Obviously, you got Juju out there who still managed to put up some numbers, even though he had an injury-riddled season, and with Ducky Hodges and Mason Rudolph out there, I mean, you don't expect him to do that much, and he still went out there and he played every game as hard as he could. And again, with that defense, like they're up and coming. They're young. They got TJ.
Their defense is almost like the best in the league at this point. You could argue.
Once they trade for Minka, they were unstoppable.
They're still young.
Yeah,
he was the final piece.
And
Minka and TJ Watt alone.
Not only with Roethlisberger coming back, but their schedule is so easy. We were looking at it the other day. They have potential to like top the AFC. They could steamroll all these like lower teams, the defensive games. I think Lamar Jackson's going to take a step back. I totally agree. I think Pittsburgh might win the division. I think they have a huge chance.
Division. You never know. Lamar Jackson was a beast last year. I think defenses are going to figure him out though, like defensive coordinators. It's maybe not this year, but I'm sure that they'll slow him down at least, and Ben can take the Steelers to that next level.
Those Steelers-Ravens games are going to be exciting this year for sure.
100% agree. All right, and my team that I think is going to be a little bit worse next year, I think it's a pretty obvious one, is the Houston Texans. Bill O'Brien, I mean, who knows what he's doing? He's pulled together wins these past couple of years. He makes the playoffs, it seems, every year in a pretty weak AFC South. But now you got teams like the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans that are going to be – the Titans emerged last year. They made it further than the Texans did. And the Colts signing Phillip Rivers are going to bring them to another level that they didn't have with Jacoby Brissett. Houston lost one of the best wide receivers in the game. It's really Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, and Julio Jones, and they shipped him out of there for not even a first-round pick. That being said, they brought in David Johnson. They brought in – who's definitely an upgrade to their running back game. He can receive the ball too, which can help them. But trying to replace DeAndre Hopkins with Randall Cobb and Brandon Cooks, I don't think is going to work out that well. Brandon Cooks is aging, so – we'll see how that works. I mean, the only thing is you can never count Deshaun Watson out. That defense isn't great, but it wasn't that great last year either. So we'll see what happens.
He's just a winner. Like he finds ways to win games, no matter who's around him.
And I would say, however bad Bill O'Brien's moves have been, even though they're all just terrible moves, The core he's built for Deshaun Watson isn't that bad. And, like, he wasted those 2 first-round picks, but he got a great left tackle, and their line is significantly improved to what it was when he was drafted. So they could be a dark horse still. Even though they got worse, they still don't have a horrible team.
Mm-hmm. That line's still
I would
not.
s- I would say the Texans' descent is more going to come in a year or two from now once they don't have these draft picks. Like for now,
Yeah.
their roster is good enough that they could win that division still. I don't know if they will or not, but they definitely could with Deshaun Watson.
I just don't see Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry losing games to that team, honestly. All right. So that was a fun section. Now we're going to move on to some guys who are still unsigned that we're kind of surprised about. One is a former Houston Texan, Jadeveon Clowney, went first overall in 2014. What do you guys think?
I think he should be signed, but clearly he's asking for too much money, and I think they understand that's why he's not on a team yet. Like, it's unbelievable that this guy is asking for so much with all of his injury history, and he didn't do that. Like, he did fine in Seattle last year, but he wasn't doing $18 million a year good. So I don't know. I think he's got to lower his expectations.
Yeah, I think it's this free agency specifically, the fact that he can't get physicals and teams can't visit him, that makes teams nervous about his injury history. So I see him signing for a 1-year deal around more like 15 million, and then looking next year to cash in when it's a more normal offseason, hopefully.
I mean,
and also to me, he's an elite run defender and a pretty good pass rusher. And it's hard to pay someone top edge rusher money if they're not an elite pass rusher.
That Seattle defense, though, was so much different when he was on the field versus when he wasn't on the field. He's a game changer, like, no matter what the situation is.
No doubt.
I mean, I could see
he's a game changer in a weird way. I feel like he can't really get the quarterback pressure that is required of normal pass rushers that other guys like Nick Bosa and like real like game wrecking pass rushers can do.
That's what he was. And he hasn't seen it since like his first couple of years in the league when he was on the edge with J.J. Watt.
As a Jets fan, there's been rumors linking him to the Jets. And the way the Jets defense is built, we have a lot of good run stoppers, and we need someone to step in and be a dominant edge rusher. And I just don't think that's what he is. He needs to sign in a place where he can move across the D-line and have impacts in the run game as well as the pass game for him to meet his true value.
I could really see him re-signing with the Seahawks or maybe signing with somebody like the Packers who might want somebody like that in their defense.
I would definitely guess a 1-year deal with the Seahawks.
What?
Can the Packers afford somebody like that?
I believe that they can. Honestly, the Packers aren't paying too many guys besides Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Who do they have on their defense?
Well, they just paid Zardarius Smith. They're going to have to pay Jair Alexander. Their defense, they have Preston Smith too. Mm-hmm. They didn't pay Blake Martinez. He's a Giant right now.
I think so.
Honestly.
But honestly, Jadeveon Clowney is going to have to lower his price or else he's just not going to sign anywhere. That's what it comes down to, really. Now we're going to move on to 2 quarterbacks, Jameis Winston and Cam Newton. Let's start with Jameis. What do you guys think?
Famous Jameis needs to get signed. I beg that he gets signed. He's so good yet so horrible at the same time.
I mean, if he threw for a couple more touchdowns last year, he would have a couple more yards, he would have been the first player ever to lead the league in throwing yards, throwing touchdowns, and interceptions, which is something that is unheard of.
That's one of the craziest seasons of all time. But as a free agent, teams are looking for something a little safer, I think. And it seems the only real openings are with the Chargers and the Patriots, possibly. And it doesn't seem like either team is interested in either of those 2 quarterbacks. So we'll see if they end up as a starter.
Patriots do not want Jameis Winston.
I think that the Dolphins are a low-key spot for Jameis Winston. If they miss on Tua and they're not in love with Justin Herbert or Jordan Love, I can definitely see them picking somebody like Isaiah Simmons in that 5 spot and then trying to move forward with Fitz and Rosen, but also maybe bringing a guy like Jameis, let him compete for that job.
If they miss on Tua, I agree, but I just don't see them missing.
Yeah. I mean, if they don't go quarterback, then I don't know what they would do, honestly.
Yeah, just personally, I think they need to get Tua Tagovailoa on their team, or they're just not going to be like what they're hoping for. This whole rebuild would have been for nothing if they can't get that quarterback of the future. And Jameis is not the answer in Miami.
Tua is the future of this league and hopefully the Miami Dolphins.
I feel like a team like the Bears really should have looked into Cam Newton and Jameis Winston to upgrade. I think they both are an upgrade over Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. And I thought it was interesting that they gave a draft capital to get Foles when there was 2 free agents out there that I would say are better.
And you're going to have to pay Foles probably more money than you would have signed Winston for. So what about Cam? What do you guys think?
I think Cam is an upper tier starting caliber player, and he needs to be rostered somewhere. Like even maybe not as a backup quarterback, because the media attention he would bring would be overwhelming, and for the starter, they would have to like play games under the impression that if they play bad, Cam Newton's going to come in and blow up and like be this huge media firestorm. So maybe not as a backup quarterback, but he is good enough to start on a lot of different teams right now. And the offense that he could bring in, he's still a dual threat. He'll play injured. His mentality, maybe he'll miss some throws, but he's a really big time athlete, and I think he deserves the recognition that he hasn't.
I wouldn't rule out the Redskins for him with Ron Rivera as the new head coach there. I don't think they know for sure what they really want at quarterback with a whole new coaching staff in there. If they end up not liking Haskins and they don't draft a quarterback, I could see them bringing in Newton to at least compete for a starting job.
My only thing with the Redskins is that they have 3 quarterbacks on that roster who have started games with Haskins, Alex Smith, and Kyle Allen. So
who really knows if Alex Smith can play this year, though?
Yeah. I mean, they're saying he's healthy, but you never know with that Washington Redskins medical staff.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, like this Cam Newton situation kind of seems like, not that it's the same thing, but Colin Kaepernick. A lot of people thought Kaepernick can play when he was unsigned, but there was just so much drama around him that nobody wanted to pick him up. So Cam Newton brings all that with him, not for the same reasons, obviously, but it kind of seems like that kind of situation. But at the same time, I think Cam's being smart and not rushing to sign any deals, because you can look at it like a situation with Case Keenum when he got traded to the Sam Bradford, when the Eagles traded him to Minnesota Vikings right when Teddy Bridgewater got hurt because they didn't want their season to be a bust. Sam Bradford came in there and he played very well that season for them. So I think if Cam can wait until a guy gets hurt, a guy on a team that doesn't really have a solid backup, then he could easily take over that team.
He definitely playing with a chip on his shoulder, and he wants to go somewhere he can start. So that might be the best way for him to do that.
Yep. I think he's got to wait it out, honestly. One more player I want to talk about that we didn't really talk about is Unique Ngakoue. I know we didn't talk about this before or anything, but Ngakoue has made it very clear he does not want to play for the Jaguars. So he's tagged right now, but I can easily see a team trading for him. Where do you guys think he could end?
Yannick Ngakoue. I mean, he has a versatile skill set. I feel like he could fit in a lot of different defenses, and who really needs like that kind of talent? I guess the Dolphins need all sorts of talent. He can go there. They can afford him. The Browns, if they don't love Olivier Vernon, he can go there.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers, probably not, but like he would be a really cool addition if they were.
They'll have the money for him, I don't think.
The Jets have been linked as well, but right now they're asking for at least a first-round pick, and I don't know if they're going to get that from anywhere for a franchise tag player.
They're definitely not getting one from the Jets.
They're not getting the Jets first round. Maybe the Browns, possibly.
The Browns and Dolphins are the lead for him right now. I wouldn't mind signing him. I mean, I don't really want to give up the capital that we've built so far, but he's a young guy. Like, trading for a young guy, like giving him a first-round pick, I don't really mind because he dominates. When he's on the field, he's a beast. So
yeah, if I were Miami, I mean, the 26th pick, like, what do you love at 26? So I wouldn't mind getting Yannick Ngakoue, a certified, like, good pass rusher for that pick.
I've seen that they're definitely trying to look for an offensive tackle there at 26, maybe Austin Jackson or Josh Jones. I think
you're out of the big four.
I mean, yeah, but still, adding to that offensive line is definitely going to help out that team and maybe a running back taking the second round.
I'd say a player in a similar situation is Trent Williams with the Redskins, right? He's been trying to get out of there for over a year.
Yep.
And the Browns and Jets have been linked to him, and both are hesitant to pull the trigger. The Redskins' asking price might be too high with a second-round pick. Doesn't seem like anyone's going to offer that at the moment. So we'll see if he's able to get out.
Again,
it's unbelievable. No one's offering a second-round pick for like a top-tier tackle in the NFL.
Well, it's the fact that you need to offer a second-round pick and pay him a new contract of at least $16 million per year, probably more.
Yeah,
the combination of those two for a 31-year-old player, that's a lot to ask for.
Yeah, very true. I mean,
no matter how elite he is, especially with his injury history too. There's a lot of risk, but a lot of reward as well.
I mean, he just made it clear he's not going to play for them. So if he just wants to get back on the field, I mean, I don't really know what he can do. All right. That pretty much wraps it up for what we have planned for today. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
I don't know. I mean, overall, like, free agency has been wild. Just the quarterbacks going everywhere, everything.
So many quarterbacks
completely shaking up the league.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to Jacoby Brissett? Is he still in the Colts?
Yes, he is.
He's still cool. Yeah.
I think that could be interesting. They might have a QB controversy. If Phillip Rivers doesn't end up being what they thought he would be, maybe Jacoby Brissett can come back in and potentially have a career revival. He could be traded somewhere. If a team doesn't love Cam Newton, maybe he'll be on the trade block coming next season too.
I mean,
I just couldn't see a team trading for him to be a starter when there's so many starting caliber quarterbacks out there that aren't even.
I wouldn't say a starter. I'd say like an injury takeover type player. Like definitely the Patriots. Maybe if Brian Hoyer or Jared Stidham doesn't work out, they could trade for.
That would be so funny if they traded for him back.
I could see that working out.
I mean,
I don't know how much Bill Belichick would like it, but he's a smart guy. He's got a big arm.
Who's behind Minshew in Jacksonville? Anyone?
I think they might draft a guy. Because you have to keep in mind they have 2 first-round picks right now. They could get a 3rd first-round pick for Ngakoue. They have the ammunition to trade up in the draft and take it to Justin Herbert.
You can't just take it to there's a lot of heat.
If you trade up to 3,
do they have enough ammunition, enough drive?
If they have 3 first-round picks,
they like
they could do it.
But they like Gardner Minshew. I think trading up to 3 for the Jaguars would be a mistake, especially right now.
Do they though? Because Gardner Minshew played well, and then the second Nick Foles was healthy, they stuck Foles back in as the starter.
Yeah, and they pulled him right out after a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if they're married to Minshew is all.
The Jaguars, as of now, are pretty much in tank mode, it seems like. And they're not going to be able to draft the quarterback this year and have him succeed behind a bad offensive line with a deteriorating defense and no wide receivers other than DJ Chark. I think if they draft a quarterback, it would be a huge mistake.
I disagree with that wide receiving core. I think that wide receiving core is young and can definitely play.
The receiving core is a strength of the team compared to everything else. But
Chris Conley had a very underrated season last year.
Chris Conley's not the worst player, but he's also not the best player.
Again, I can see them taking Tua and having him redshirt a year, keep Minshew in as a starter, probably end up with a high draft pick next year and rebuild that roster.
You think the Dolphins might do that too if they pick Tua?
I could see the Dolphins letting Ryan Fitzpatrick start the year.
I think Tua will play halfway through the year like Josh Rosen and not get.
The Dolphins have rebuilt the roster enough though that they could put Tua in there as well.
Yeah, I mean they've structured.
I don't think he'll be a week 1 starter though.
Yeah, if they want to keep him back, let him get even healthier. I mean, he looks great in his workout videos, but your doctors haven't seen him yet. So that's also a very big thing. Another team that we didn't talk about when talking about Cam and Jameis is the Seattle Seahawks. They currently don't have a backup quarterback on their roster. So
yeah, but with Russell Wilson, he's played every single game. They're just gonna find some lowly guy. They're not gonna bring in. They're not gonna bring in someone huge like Jameis or Cam.
I mean, Jameis
as a backup to.
I could see Jameis going there. He's not going to ask for the money that he probably could have got being a first-round guy, but there's obviously no market out there for him. If he just wants.
If you were Jameis Winston and you threw for 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, you're not going to take a backup quarterback salary to go play behind Russell Wilson.
He wants to play anyway.
Even if he signs somewhere as a backup, he's going to want to sign somewhere where he can eventually compete for the job. He's never taking that job over with Russell Wilson there.
That's
so
fair.
To me, I couldn't see that happening.
You think that they draft someone?
I think that they draft someone, they find somebody randomly on the market, like a Matt Moore, like the Chiefs did when Pat Mahomes got hurt. I don't see some big splash for the Seahawks. Matt Moore to the Jets.
There was rumors about it. I want it to happen.
I want Matt Moore to come back and be a scout.
He played for the Dolphins for a lot of years. He wasn't the best, but he played well in 2015.
He played under Adam Gase, though.
Yeah, he played good under Adam Gase in 2015.
Yeah.
Yep. Brought us to the playoffs when Tannehill got hurt.
We're going to have to talk about coaches moving forward. I can't tell if Adam Gase is a bum or not.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have an episode about coaches for sure.
All right. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for episode 1 of the Press Coverage Podcast. We'll be having videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so watch out for that. And that's pretty much it for episode number 1. All right.
Yeah, so thanks for watching. We plan to improve, don't worry, with every episode. This is just our first draft, but big on the NFL. When fantasy kicks up, we're gonna have a ton of arguments. That's a big thing of ours.
Yeah, it's gonna be all about me arguing with Leb.
Yeah, when the season starts, we'll be doing stuff like game picks and like bowl predictions and stuff like that. So stay tuned.
Excited for it.
Yep. All right. We'll see you next week, or we'll see you on Thursday. All right.